The Yeti Radio, powered by DavidLeeImaging.com. David Lee Imaging in the Titletown Music Archive and the Live 365 app.
It's alive!
The Yeti. Welcome to the Backstage Lounge on the YetiRadio.com.
Welcome, everybody, to YetiRadio.com and the Backstage Lounge tonight, live in person. We have a morning star, Mr. Casey Weaver, Eric Seals, Todd Morris, Aaron Devine, and Ryan Bell. Starting it off with the first song, and all three songs tonight are premieres right here on the Yeti Radio. So this is a first, and thank you. And here we are with their first track, Imperfect, on the YetiRadio.com. It's the YetiRadio.com in the Backstage Lounge live with Morning Star. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, what's up, man?
Oh, well, thank you for coming and hanging out. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
I don't get very many bands, if they have more than 4 people, bring everybody. But it's cool. I like when they do because it's about the whole band.
Right.
Now, some portions I get, when you have members that aren't here in another state or whatever, I understand it. It's one of my idiosyncrasies.
Well,
But,
nowadays, modern bands, half of them live in different countries.
Yes,
Right.
they do.
Peripheries
It's
based
amazing.
in London, I think.
So we will get started real quick. Mr. Casey, wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Is everybody original?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you guys have only been around how long?
We've been formed for about 6 months.
Yeah. So the origin of this band was basically September of 23.
Okay.
Todd and I have known each other for literally about 40 years. I mean, we've grown up we grew up together in the same town. We were buddies in that town. We've known each other a long time. Kind of lost contact, went our separate ways. And Todd reached out, actually, thank God, in September of 23. Said, hey, man, I'm back around. You want to get together, start making some music? It's like, hell yeah, man. And
Excellent, because I've written 47.
yeah, and he's had, he told me, he said, I've literally been writing riffs for the last 25 years. And I said, I don't have that much backlog, but I do have some stuff of my own. And so we just started getting together, and he was showing me some of his stuff, some of his riffs and songs, and we were just kind of talking. It'd be great to get together and put this together, and he said, do you know anybody that could sing for this stuff? And I think before he even finished the sentence, I said, yep, Eric's the guy. And he's like, oh, you know this guy? So, oh yeah, I run the studio, and I recorded Eric, back in the day, and ever since then I've been a fan. Like that, he's great voice, very coachable, can do the clean to mean. I just said, yeah, Eric's the guy. Eric is the guy. Like, it was not even close with anybody else. Matter of fact, I don't even think I mentioned anybody else. And so I think I messaged him, Eric, that night and said, hey, I think I got something here if you want to be part of it. And and then we just kind of wrote. And then Eric had the hookup for Ryan and Aaron. Said, man, I know this killer bass drummer combo, and brought him in. I mean, the musicianship, the technical ability of the band is just freaking, it's off the charts. I mean, now that we're getting to know each other, and our trust levels have been established and everything's going up, I mean, it still blows me away. If I wasn't in the band, I would be a fan. It's the technical ability and the stuff we're putting together is just, it's amazing in my opinion. And I think we've gotten some really good reactions so far. So
Okay, awesome. How did you come up with the name?
Oh yeah, so that was an interesting debate. We had some pretty spirited debates there for a while. I had the idea probably in that following December. I think I sent it to Todd and Eric. Said, hey, I have this idea, Morning Star, and I know there's some religious connections to that, and I really didn't care, and that actually wasn't my inspiration for it. Yeah, my idea for a Morning Star was somebody that is always looking for answers, goes outside, literally stares up at the sky to a star and mourns to it, like, why is my life like this? Why is my life, I'm looking for answers. Like, they literally mourn to the heavens. And, you should be careful who you're shouting out to. You never know who's listening. It could be good, could be bad.
Absolutely. Definitely got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you. How did your music career start?
Oh, shit. I think I started playing guitar in 1987. Yeah, that shows how old I am.
Dating yourself.
Yeah, I'm old. I mean, I've been playing guitar a long time. Just learned the right way. Thank God I had a music teacher that he trained my ear. He taught me how to play the piano. I mean, he really set me up to be successful. And I've actually probably become more of a well-rounded musician. I've probably regressed as a guitar player, actually, but I've developed, my voice and my ear, and I run the recording studio, and it helps me to try to bring out the best in bands. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Reach around, so.
Yeah, I do. I give nice big hugs. Yeah.
I've never had a better big spoon.
We'll start over on the left side of the couch then. Introduce yourself and
I'm Aaron. I'm
Aaron?
the bass player for this here shindig. So I actually got started as a drummer, believe it or not. Spent my entire youth, like elementary school, junior high, as a drummer, and then spent almost a decade in a band called Incult, like 20 years ago, playing the drums with that band. But somewhere in that mix, somewhere in those years, I met Ryan way over there. And I was like, I am not a good drummer. That is a good drummer. and I was like, I need to learn a different instrument. No, I had already been, tampering with playing the bass, and I knew guitar, fairly well at a rudimentary level anyway. So Ryan and I wound up in a project called North of Nowhere, where I was doing bass, backup vocals, and then occasionally even secondary percussion because I had that background. And that band did really well, and it really... Yeah, we played some shows together. Yeah, you were in Bellicose back then, right? Yeah.
Old days.
Yeah, the old days. But yeah, it really taught me a lot about everybody's sort of job, in the band, like the rhythm section's duty, the guitar player's duty, the singer's duty, like the voids that we sort of fill for each other to make ourselves sound full. And yeah, dude, spent almost another decade in that band with him. Some of the very best years of my life. And then, years later, after that band had disassembled, unfortunately, Bell lets me know, like, hey, this dude I was playing in Death Grip with, like, he's got a pretty cool project. And then we linked up with Casey and Todd and Eric here. And, Casey's running his own studio. He's got a great ear for sound. It makes it super easy for us to just track and experiment and goof around with stuff, like just in our home without having to pay some astronomical studio rates. And I can't argue with the results. Like, I've paid for studios that have given me poorer results than we get with Casey. And I paid way too much. I don't even want to say numbers. It's embarrassing.
Well, I've heard lots of great things about Casey in the studio. So
yeah, he's got a great ear, and he really does know how to bring the best out of a band, including us. And yeah, it's been a wild ride ever since, man. We've just been foot on the gas almost as soon as we met.
Yeah.
awesome. Todd, well,
Yeah, so I started playing guitar 1983, freshman year of high school. Ooh. Yeah, so I'm older than I'm the oldest guy in the band. Yeah,
I was.
you're probably the oldest guy in the room.
Yeah, you are the genius of the band.
He's the Gandalf of this.
Yeah. You shall not pass.
You were a freshman when?
83, 84. I graduated 87 high school.
Okay.
Kingman. Yeah. So I grew up in Arizona. Went to UNLV. Just was playing in bands. I played in metal bands back in the 90s. Last show I played was 96.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And so it'd been 29 years since I'd been on the stage when we played at Creepsville that night. So
wow.
Kind of a crazy long
That's
adventure.
awesome.
And welcome back. You played at Creepsville. The love of God.
Yeah, we got married, had kids, did all those things, So
How was Creepsville?
oh, it was fun. It was a blast. Yeah.
Felt like
Yeah,
being
good
on the
time.
set of a Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I think there was some nerves.
I heard somebody say one day that ministry shouldn't be opening for Rob Zombie. Show Me God should be.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, yes, please.
Right.
You know.
There you go. Yeah, but know that I've been saving riffs while I was raising kids. Married, had kids, and just saving riffs the whole time, writing. The riff vault's full. I got about 600 riffs sitting in a video file. I got about 50 songs sitting there now. I just writing, having fun, enjoying
He's a
it.
monster.
So,
he doesn't
yeah.
stop.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm a word nerd, kind
Word
of.
nerds.
And I've got lists of songs. I've got
Word
scraps.
nerds unite, bro.
Exactly. So that's it.
So there's going to be a scene in your life, like in the movie Purple Rain, where they're like, "What the hell is this? Where'd all this come from?" Awesome.
The thesaurus.
We've got years and years worth of material. And honestly, I'll be honest. I mean, it's my stuff, but or all that stuff that I've written. I don't think there's really any stinkers in there. There's nothing really bad in that file.
I haven't heard of
No,
that riff yet.
It's all decent stuff. So I think we've got a lot that we can work on and make good.
And Todd's
Absolutely.
Todd's been really. Oh, sorry. Todd's been really. It's really cool the way this happens. Like, he brings in, a riff or a core idea, and he's very, he doesn't like get weird about it, and he's like, look, this is just an idea and a riff, and he lets me get a hold of it, and I'll tweak the shit out of it, and I'll change it and write a riff, and I'll do this and this and this, and then we give it to Eric, and then he does his thing. The three of us will craft the lyrics together and the melodies together, and then we literally send a mix with no drums and no bass and tell Ryan and Aaron, like, go to town on it, dude. Like, just do your thing, I mean, and it's worked out really well. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, at the first, everybody's so, they've had their times in the music scene. It's like everybody was a little apprehensive, like, I hope they do the right thing. And once we got past that, it's been the right thing over and over and over again. It's been like, holy shit, this. So, Todd's definitely bringing in these great ideas, but without the five of us, it wouldn't sound the way it does.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
I can give you these concepts, and then they just take it to the next level. That's
So
a good
what's it
start.
like being back after 29 years? That's a hell of a
man.
break. Well, obviously it wasn't a break because you were writing everything.
He's like,
while
I
you
eat
were-
a lot of
Yeah,
ibuprofen.
I'm stop crying.
I was riffing the whole time, but it just to be back on stage. I ran into some issues though on the stage, so I was less nervous when we started playing that show. At the end, because of multiple things, kind of just goofy things happened, but it was fun though. It was great.
Well,
And
we'll
next
get
day,
to that
though-
question.
Oh yeah. The next day though, I was really sad. I was wishing we were setting up again that night to play another show. I was really
Okay,
So
got the bug.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's
All
back.
right.
So,
That's good
Yep.
to hear.
yep.
All right, Aaron. No, not Aaron. Eric. Eric.
Hello.
There we go.
All right.
Sorry. Maybe I should have had you guys sit in order.
So, my mom was a singer. My Aunt Gail was a signed country singer. My mom always had issues with substance growing up, so she never got to really use her voice. But she always pushed me to use mine. And honestly, when I first started singing in front of people, it was stuff like Boys to Men and stuff to get chicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a couple.
The only
R. Kelly
reason to
songs.
do it is for the women.
Right. And then a friend of mine took me to a Battle of the Bands like my sophomore year in high school. And one of the bands, they were singing like a Bush song or something from the radio that I actually knew. And I was singing along in the audience. And everybody was looking at me because I was louder than the guy that had the microphone, And Dusty's like, man, I'm going to give you some albums to just go home and chill with, So he gave me Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, White Zombie, La Sistra Sexto, Tool, the one with Enema. Is that Enema? Yeah. I can't remember the other ones. I think maybe a Sepultura album. Okay. But yeah, that Pantera album, man. You know what I mean? Like fucking, it was for me, it was, I had a pretty rough upbringing, so I was always angry and I didn't know how to get it out. But then listening to Pantera, it was like, all right, that dude sounds how I feel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so
Absolutely.
There were many nights my dad came and checked on me in the shower because
You
I was
okay?
just
'Cause
in
you're
there,
screaming Is Satan in there with you?
Right. My first time playing in a band, God, I don't remember what year it was. I was in Iowa at the time, and it was just a cover band. But because it was in Iowa, it was a very small musical community. I got to meet like Corey Taylor and a bunch of the guys from Slipknot.
Sweet.
So that was pretty cool. But then when I moved back here, I got into a band called Bellicose, and that was my first original band I'd ever been in.
Don't sleep on Bellicose. They rocked.
We had our run, man. We had some really good musicians in the band,
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I was in Death Grip, and we recorded with Casey. So that's when I met Casey, and it was my first time ever recording, and he made it a fun experience, you know what I mean? So after hearing all the horror stories of other places, I was like, God damn,
thank God.
we
got a good one.
Yeah. So
And that album was great. That album came out.
it came out really good, man. It came out really good, and it was cool because I would come in singing a certain song one way, in case he would hear something and be like, hey, try doing it like this a little bit. So it was cool to have that guidance and stuff. Currently in another cover band called Radio Roulette with a bunch of my buddies from the metal scene, and we play out. So, but
Keeps him sharp.
yeah, keeps me sharp, and makes playing the sets that we do in this band pretty easy because I'm doing 3.5 hours of music with the cover band. So,
Right.
But no, it's just trying to stay active, trying to stay alive and stay happy, you know what I mean? So music seems like the best way to do that, and
So
we seem to make pretty sweet music together. So
how do you take care of your voice? And I ask because I don't know if you know the story, but 11 vocal surgeries.
yeah,
For
yeah.
left side vocal paralysis.
Yeah, I've always heard about those stories too, and to be completely honest with you, man, like I quit smoking cigarettes, God, like almost 4 years ago now, and that's helped tremendously, to be honest with you, especially with the singing part. You know what I mean? The scream, it's just always kind of been there, but the singing part is the hardest part for me, and I'm able to hit notes now that I wasn't able to while I was smoking cigarettes.
Take notes, kids.
My friend, my good
Absolutely.
friend Christian from Sectus turned me on to this throat coat tea, and I'll drink some of that warm before I go on stage, as to not, so it's nice and soothed so I don't blow it out on stage. And I've just been pretty lucky with it so far, you know what I mean? I don't do anything special, like sing in the car, sing in the shower, try to keep it active as much as possible. But
Keep it warm.
yeah. Other than that, not
From
much.
a third-party perspective, though, like I can, having seen a lot of other vocalists with other bands I've been in, he's very good at like regulating and sort of self-controlling.
Right.
his
I
output.
try not to blow it out.
He
you
never
know?
lets
Like,
his emotions sort of supersede what he's able to put out.
Yeah.
And keeps himself sort of dialed into his zone. And his zone, he does it really, really well.
So actually,
So, fun fact, the Creepsville gig, the day before, group chat, Eric, hey guys, I'm sick.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, really? And he's like, no, I'm for real sick. And it's like, okay.
Sick.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to play the show. And, we had this conversation after the show, and Eric was like, oh, I was probably like 60%. And I said, your 60%
Is the average.
was still killer. It was still great.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
nobody was like, oh, he was sick. Everybody was like, no, that was great. So, yeah, he played that show sick. Just fun fact.
I'm always my biggest critic, though.
Of
You know
course.
what I'm
We
saying?
all are.
So.
Yeah. As we should be.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
When you run out of things to learn, you're pretty much done doing whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, when you think you've known it all,
Right.
you become the dumbest man in the room.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's move over to Mr. Ryan.
There you go, sir.
The man with the
Well,
kick drums.
Taco Bell.
Taco it is.
Taco.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you guys will have to come back for sure once I get moved into the garage, because I think I have a signed Lamb of God poster
yeah.
that's going to be on the wall. A couple others as well, but some of those I'm going to keep secret. But you're wearing their shirt, so
Yeah. Got to represent, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been playing all my life, basically since I was 8, and hanging out. Pretty much grew up in the same town as Aaron, so, you know, I've known him since about 5th grade. Here and there, our other brother, Aaron, another Aaron. A lot of Aarons. His dad had a badass studio, and we got together in there a couple times and jam on the drums and bass, guitars, whatever we get our hands on, you know, until we pissed him off. He'd run us out of there. All right, you guys are too damn good. Hey, we were pretty damn good.
You're making me look bad. Get out.
Yeah. So yeah, known him for a while. Then he hit me up a while after Incult broke up. We started North of Nowhere. I've been in a few, you know, dead end bands before that. Didn't do anything. Just never got out. A couple open mics and started playing gigs with Aaron North of Nowhere. Man, we took off. That shit was the funnest time. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, we had some good times.
And I met Eric. Bellicose. Man, it's hard.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
hard
led
to
us to meeting Eric
think
in the
about
first
those
place.
days.
Was actually the North of Nowhere years became
Yeah.
the reason that we even got introduced to Eric in the first place.
That's awesome.
But it was a blast. And then after that, we had another band, Jack Pistolero, for a while there.
That was fun.
That was a fun one. It didn't last, so. But
They can't
Yeah.
all be zingers.
pretty
Who
much
was that? Primus said that, I think.
pretty much hasn't been playing music for a long time, about 5 years. And Aaron got, you know, back in town and it's like, hey, you want to jam? So we started jamming again. And then Eric calls me. Say, hey, we got this metal project coming up. And I'm like, well, shit, do you need a bass player too? Because, you know, I'm kind of a package deal right now.
That was literally okay.
Yes,
so
we do.
me and Bell were chilling at his house, just sort of jamming, just for funsies. And he gets a text message. He's like, "Hold on." He like reads the text message, and then he reads it out loud to me. And he's like, "There's a band, and they literally need a drummer and a bassist." And we both went light bulb.
Yeah, it's time to come out of retirement.
Yeah, it was good. It was
We're
good.
too young for that shit. Gotta keep in it with, you know. But yeah, you know, music's been my life.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing that saved me from drugs and alcohol. Well, I like my beer, you know.
Hey, everybody's got their thing.
But,
That's
you know,
cool. It's how you respect it and get the respect back from it.
yeah,
you know?
don't
So-
abuse it. Don't sit there and drink all, you know, every day, all night.
I'm going to talk about Bell for a second. So I know that definitely myself and Todd and probably Eric too, but I remember the first time Bell came to record with us. Yeah. And it was like, okay, and we were just kind of feeling each other out. And then he started pulling off this stuff. And I remember Todd and I specifically looked at each other like, did you hear that? Like, holy shit. Like, wow. Like, we definitely had a bunch of, like, wow moments. Like, we definitely found a drummer. Like, holy shit. Yeah. Really good. So, props to Bell.
Yeah, you guys have
excellent.
a great writing style too. I like the way your hooks are in the songs, your lead works, and the way you guys play together. Right. I like that. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, hell yeah, this is a great project to get into.
Yeah.
So,
Everything melts good. Like all of our influences are a little bit different from one another, but it works well. You know what I mean?
The singing style between, I don't know if you want to go, you and me, how we, Eric and I have been singing together. Sorry. Eric and I have been singing together for more than a couple years, and we always seem to just gel. I've had people tell me, like, hey, you guys harmonize really well, you guys interweave really well, kind of an Alice in Chainsy kind of, you know, yeah.
Right. Harmonies going on there.
So that was, you know, Todd mentioned that to me, and that was another reason why Eric's name popped immediately in my head. And said, yeah, that he's the guy, because not only does he does the clean to mean, but him and I sing pretty good together. So
And now having Aaron too with
and Aaron provides some rally vocals that are
I don't harmonize so good, but I make demon sounds pretty good.
Yeah, you don't sound like you harmonize.
No,
but you sound like
come out like
got that
this.
metal.
Yeah, you and a couple other people, I could probably get some sound bites for my concert.
But what I will say though is that these cats have given me and Ryan a lot of room and a lot of independence as a rhythm section, like vocals aside, just instrumentally speaking, to like do our thing, and it's interesting to hear the material they send us versus the material it winds up being, and the fact that they give us like the freedom to sort of do that, and so drastically alter their original whatever it is, and then they're stoked with the result. Well,
when you get somebody as a package deal, when you get a rhythm section as a package deal, and you guys are as in tune with each other as what I'm hearing, then it goes without saying. They wouldn't be very good bandmates if they didn't, with the freedom, because you are so
definitely
dialed in with each other. So and that, from my bass instructor, that's one of the big things, is having that connection.
Yeah, I occasionally joke that I live inside of Ryan's kick drum, like a hobbit. Like a little round door is the mic port, and I live in there. That's just where I reside.
I remember when I first started working with Todd. Sorry.
I know. I need to figure out a way to invest in some more microphones.
When I first started working with Todd, and it was just me and him, he would send me his ideas, and I would like go crazy, and I'd have to like reel back and go, "Oh, I have all these ideas to like do this and this and this, and it's gonna change your song, dude. It's gonna change the idea and make it this now." Right. And I remember having a very frank conversation with him, like, I have ultimate respect for you, so
none of this is ever going to be the same.
I just need to know that you're okay with what I'm about to do and continue to do. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, just go nuts on it. Make it." I think you even said, "Make it better."
Actually, big ups to Todd in that regard entirely, because like most of these songs are all his riffs, his lyrics, his babies. He's been collecting this like collection of work for a lot of years. And so it takes a really mature musician to hand his babies off to other people and say it's okay if they come back different.
Right.
Well,
that's
in fact, I encourage it.
They come back grown.
Yeah, well,
I remember from recording the vocals.
I am Groot.
Exactly. Todd had ideas how he wanted the vocals to go. And I would listen to it, and I would have maybe slightly different, on like melodies and stuff like that. And we'd go in and cut it, and I'd come out and Todd's like, right there, do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's the freedom all around. Like, we want everybody to be themselves.
Yeah, everybody gets room to breathe.
Yeah, I think the best product comes out when we can all express ourselves freely.
Well, Belle, we'll get back to you for the next question and just go the opposite direction.
Right.
Musical influences.
Well, for me, definitely Pantera. I loved Metallica. Rush back in the day. Neil Peart, that was my dad's band. So Neil Peart, he definitely had me going for the drumming. And shit. From Pantera, I loved Korn. I was basically a 90s kid.
Right.
So, went down that line. Deftones, and that's it for the most part. Those guys, a lot of different styles of music too, like rap artists.
Right.
Like Dr. Dre back in the 90s,
Yeah.
But for the metal, as far as the way I play, I think a lot of Danny Carey. I love Tool too, so I get a little of that in there with Pantera. Yeah. And a drum roll in your pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, just metal, new metal was my style back in the day. I started playing probably in 92, 93, so.
Yeah.
Cool. Eric?
Yeah. For me, I would, definitely, people ask me what my favorite band is. I have a 1A and 1B, and it's Pantera for the heavy stuff. There was no greater frontman than Phil Anselmo back in the day. And I mean, still to the day, you know, we went and saw him at the Cardinals Stadium a couple years ago, and he controls that crowd like no other lead man I've ever seen, you know. And you know, of course, Dime and everybody else in the band. But and then 1B would be Alice in Chains. They were huge influence on my singing style. I just loved the pain and anguish in Lane's voice, and
Singing in minors.
man, you know, it was just awesome. Fear Factory is one of my big influences. That drummer is one of the first things that really brought me into metal. Was just like, how the fuck is he doing that? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
and then, what's his name? Dino.
oh yeah,
Like chugging with the kick.
yeah. And then Burton with, you know, it was crazy, dude.
So good.
But yeah, you know, and then, you know, before that it was, you know, R&B stuff like Boyz II Men, and that's where I really learned how to control my voice, you know. But yeah, that would be about it.
Todd
Zilla.
I'm older, so.
All right.
No, actually, I was never a Kiss.
I wasn't
I was
either.
never a Kiss guy, but my dad's a Vietnam vet guy, Vietnam vet. So I grew up listening to his records, his record collection. So it was Moody Blues and Steppenwolf and Creedence and Beatles and Hendrix, all that.
Hey, I think
SCCR.
Steppenwolf would have been heavy as balls if they came out now.
Yeah.
Steve Miller Band, if they like were a modern take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. See, I grew up listening to all that, right? Anything
Right.
with a guitar, and I just wanted more. I wanted heavier.
Right.
And I remember we were talking about this when we were doing the video shoot this weekend. I would come home middle school, 81, 82, 83. Junior high, I was an air guitar champ of AC/DC Back in Black. I would come home. It was either Scorpions Blackout or AC/DC Back in Black. And I could air guitar both sides of the albums the whole way through, and I knew I wanted to play guitar. Never broke a string, yeah. But I knew I wanted to play guitar, so that's when freshman year of high school took guitar class, and then went from there. But I've just always wanted it heavier, always wanted guitar, more guitar. And so I went through that whole phase. I had a buddy, Chilco, he was the guy. Everyone out there has that friend that is the guy that's, hey, check out this new metal thing. Everyone's got one, right? And ours. So like when the Metal Massacres came out, we were into that. He was into all the new wave British heavy metal stuff. Metallica. The thing that changed my life though was the third concert I saw was Metallica opening for Ozzy at Veterans Memorial, and we stood right in front. And 86, that changed my life. I was already playing guitar at that point. I was trying to learn how to play Metallica because that was my favorite band at that point. But hearing Hetfield's strings on battery, I could hear his strings because we were so close. That changed my life. I was like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I want to be. But so I've pretty much pursued that. Everything heavy. I love In Flames. I love Machine Head. You name it. Testament. Testament's one of my favorite bands. Just everything heavy. Love it.
Chuck Billy is a badass.
Oh, one of my favorite vocalists. Yeah. Now the thing is though too, I was always heavy, writing heavy, playing in heavy bands, playing in thrash bands, playing heavy, and then having kids and living up in Seattle 17 years, and my whole perspective on writing changed, and I just lifted all those. It was like a weight, kind of weighting heavy, a heavy weight on me.
It doesn't have to be heavy.
It doesn't have to be heavy.
There's a way to be heavy that isn't heavy.
Exactly. So
you can be heavy with melody or content.
And that's been my whole goal: is write songs that have a hook, have a melody, have something maybe that could get on the radio, have maybe something that somebody else could sing, like some band that I would never even think, like we would never play this song. But so I've got all kinds of stuff.
That earworm.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to write earworms. That's it, exactly. And I'm having fun doing it. I even have a show. I've got some stuff for TV shows. I've got all kinds of stuff. So just trying to write hooks. So
absolutely.
Workhorse.
Casey?
Actually, I am a Kiss guy. So, the first album I actually heard, rock album, was that album right there. It was Kiss Destroyer. I remember being in awe of it. And like Todd, I kept going down those heavy roads. I was a big AC/DC Van Halen guy. And then I discovered the mighty Metallica and just lost my ever-loving mind. I remember just Master and Justice just completely sent me down that hole, and they've just, they're huge for me. I definitely experimented in the hair metal phase just because it was like, oh, there's some good music. There was some bad music. There was some weirdness involved. I don't know about that. But yeah, and then I remember kind of in the mid 90s when, music for me got a little weird and metal kind of went a little underground. I was definitely an Alice in Chains guy. I remember thinking Alice in Chains was really good. And like Eric, I love Alice in Chains, and it's affected the way I sing and things like that. And I remember discovering Fear Factory, Demanufacture, and that album just made me like, Jesus Christ, holy shit. And actually, Todd actually gave me Beneath the Remains from Sepultura in the early 90s, and I remember that was like, yep, that's one of my favorite bands right there. So I'm a huge Sepultura guy. I love that. But I also like a lot of like weird, like I'm into like Stevie Ray,
Love Stevie.
I'm into like Creedence, Seegers, stuff my dad listens to, Skynyrd. I got into Tori Amos for a while. I love anything piano based. I'm a huge piano guy. I write a lot on the piano. And then in the early 2000s, I had like another resurgence where I actually discovered a record label called Century Media, and then they were putting out bands like Stuck Mojo, An Only Living Witness, My Own Victim, and that for me was like another like, okay, metal's still there, good music's still there, so yeah.
Awesome.
Influences. Good grief. Okay, so I grew up in a little crappy desert town. Bell can speak to this. He knows well. So I actually grew up kind of country. I grew up listening to like Garth Brooks and Chris Ledoux and weird stuff like that. Well, not weird, but stuff that was appropriate for that. And then when I started to grow older, like into my early teens, and sort of find my own music, because like my mom wasn't about all that country stuff. The stuff I heard on the car radio as a kid was like what you would consider classic oldies, CCR, The Supremes, Diana Ross, Fleetwood Mac, all that, yeah. And I loved all that stuff, dude. The Beatles and Elvis and all of that, like, was cool. But then when I got older and started to try to like find my own like way, I actually wound up diving overly heavily into the late end of the 80s, and I got really into Genesis and Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel. Like their songwriting was just, it was very dynamic and very well orchestrated in a way that took the listener on a journey. And then as I got older still and started to play instruments, that's when I started to discover heavy music. And it was like, at first in like high school, for example, there was that argument, who do you like better, Metallica or Megadeth? My answer was always Pantera. Yeah. Like, why isn't this part of the conversation? Why aren't we having this talk right now? But then not only that, but then the grunge era after that, and there was Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Mudhoney and a bunch of other projects that were really sort of changing the dynamic of music, and I took all that and sort of amalgamated it. And then as I got older still, we had the late 90s new metal wave. Slipknot, I was like, all those bands, Killswitch, Chimera, Shadows Fall, all those bands, for sure. But then once I dove into like really trying to learn the bass guitar, I found a lot of bass-centric stuff, so I got real into Primus. I honestly, a lot of my bass-centric stuff I got from bluegrass influences, believe it or not. Yeah. Some of those stand-up double bass guys were doing just insane slap pop stuff.
Absolutely.
And nobody gave it credit for being the dawn of slap pop and funk. But then even funk, like I like George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. They had those funky, like weird, slappy, poppy bass lines.
Disco stuff.
Yeah. And then later, we had Red Hot Chili Peppers sort of emulating that, and so I liked that a lot. Rhino, the bass player from Mudvayne, was probably one of my biggest influences, because he had a weird balance of like funky but very still heavy but very still groovy. very in the pocket, but
his own way, like,
yeah, for sure. He's a standalone kind of bassist, and I appreciated that. In fact, it made it hard for me to be in the first couple of bands because I was trying to Les Claypool all over the place. You know what I mean? And they were like, settle the fuck down. Just calm it for a minute.
This isn't Primus.
Yeah, exactly. And so little by little, like, I've learned how to sort of balance all that out and like take those little elements of stuff that I like. Like, I like a little Peter Gabriel, I like a little George Clinton, I like a little Mudvayne, and then just sort of smoosh it all in with some Pantera.
Cool.
And you get, yeah.
Very awesome. Back to the two guitar players real quick. Because of the simple fact that you've both been on both sides of it. Grunge, which, for lack of better terms, muffled the guitar, in a sense.
Kinda, yeah. They really.
There were no solos. There was no.
I don't know about that. Jerry Cantrell.
Well, but as a whole, as a whole, the guitar seemed to be a little more muffled than what you heard back in the '80s, and then what you heard after. You know, and it's obviously coming back, but what's it like being on?
I mean, you picked up the mic.
You walked through it.
Well, I was just thinking about
you guys lived through all that. What's that do to?
Well, I guess for starters, I was never a lead guitarist. I always jammed with guys that just shred on guitar. I was just a rhythm guy doing heavy vocals, trying to be head-filled, I guess, basically, but and not doing a very good job at it. But so I'm newer to playing leads, I guess, you know. But the whole phase of not having solos. I've got a drop C thing. I did the Half Mile Skin thing. That's about 20 songs, no leads, just all. That whole era, you know,
right?
Yeah, and it's all that era. You know, that's where that's from because there's no leads. There's no. It's weird, and I'm glad it's all come back. I'm glad it is where it is now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say
you've got a studio, so
yeah,
so you got a little more to say on it.
Well, I mean, the 90s, the grunge era was a little weird for me, but I mean, I think that the hair metal, the guitar gymnastics. I mean, I think King Ed definitely kicked that off, and then people just like went way left with it, and people were just doing insane, crazy stuff on guitar. And I think they kind of lost a little bit, like
of the soul.
Like, yeah, you're actually playing like inside a song. I mean, you do have those gymnastic guitar players, which is cool, and I respect them. And then the grunge era was like, okay, we're gonna shift it all the way over to the other side. Right. We're gonna forget how to play solos,
right?
And which I was also kind of like, that's not great either. And, but it has its place. And now I think it's kind of going back to the middle, where it's like, for me, like I've kind of patterned my playing. One of my hugest influences is Chris DeGarmo from Queensryche. So I've always, as I feel like I've matured as a guitarist, you're still playing for the song. Your solo, if it even needs a solo, should be a little tiny song within the song. And I think like Chris DeGarmo is a master at that. I mean, I think the most perfect solos are the ones that you can hum, you can listen, you can whistle and remember. Yeah, so like for me, like the solo to Eyes of a Stranger is one of the most iconic solos I think ever recorded. So that's kind of where I patterned myself at. So instead of being that gymnastic guitar player, I try to play less notes that mean more, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Circles on my butt cheeks.
Yeah.
I almost spit my water out.
Let's see. We're going to go ahead and break through the intermission song real quick. And real quick, if I can do a quick shout out. Nature by Freeze says hi. It's a friend of mine that's, she lives here, but she's over in, I want to say South Carolina right now. Handling some family stuff. But she likes the Yeti radio, and she tunes in when she can. So
Very cool.
it's nice to see she's catching one of the interviews.
Glad she's here, or he's here.
Yes. Let's see.
It's ma'am.
Next up, from Morningstar, this is Confirmation Bias, right here on the Yeti Radio in the Backstage Lounge. Back in the studio with Morning Star on the YetiRadio.com in the Backstage Lounge. Oh, wow. Okay, we did that. So let's go back to the first song, Imperfect. How'd that come around?
Well, like most of the songs, it started with Todd.
Todd, yeah.
It's Todd's fault.
It started as a...
If it sucks, blame him.
Yeah, well, being a word nerd, the word was pedantic, right? Someone, a perfectionist. And that's what it started as. But then Casey and Eric, they just turned it into Imperfect, came out better. It's just an easier thing.
Okay.
But it was about a perfectionist, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was another one of those, hey, Todd, do you mind if I change this kind of thing.
Let it rip.
Yeah, and a lot of times, since I have the studio, sometimes I'll record like a test vocal. I'll come up with a line or a melody, and I'll come up with a, hey, I'm going to change the words, and I come up with a little melody or whatever, and I'll record a test vocal in order to show Eric, like, hey, what do you think of this kind of thing? And I came up with that melody line and showed it to Todd and Eric, and yeah, it seemed to work. So that's kind of what we went with, and that's actually one of my favorite songs that we have right now. That is my favorite song. My goal with this band is to keep that heavy, like that. We can still throw down, like we still got big teeth, but there's tons of melody in the song. So keep it,
making it digestible.
Yeah, keep it like heavy enough.
You know what I mean?
Keep it heavy enough for that part of your audience, but also the other part of your audience walking away going, like, singing it. Like, I can tell. My 8-year-old daughter walks around our house singing the chorus to Imperfect. I'm like, wow, that's
good.
That's good, I guess.
No, when you get your kids' responses, that's when you know you've done something right. Because
my 16-year-old's basically become our roadie, so he was rocking shirts at the first show, and
William's awesome, man. I love him.
Awesome.
Shout out to William. What's up, dude?
I had a killer backache. He saved the day for me.
Right.
Yeah, dude, helping us move gear and slinging our merch and just generally being an easy person to work with. He's a good kid.
Awesome. So the second song,
Confirmation Bias.
Yeah.
My son, extremely smart kid. He one day I was telling him something. It was something from the past, something I'd done. He said, "Dad, you have confirmation bias." I was like, "Ooh, that's a song title." Like, that's good. I did.
Thanks, son. Now, what are you talking about?
I'd heard of cognitive dissonance, but I wasn't sure about that. So it just kind of came from that. Just started writing down words and just trying to write grooves. That's more of a groove kind of song,
Okay.
And
I will say that having watched that song evolve, there's definitely very strong Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell influences in there. The vocal harmonies between Casey and Eric are fantastic, and the fact that they gave me a little room to scream in there somewhere is also pretty sweet. But like it feels nostalgic, but in a new way, and I think that that's almost more than you could ask for from a song, is to like sort of tickle that old memory bone that's like, I remember this really good thing and this reminds me of that, but this isn't that, it's new. I really, really like that tune a lot.
Okay. And you said you've done music videos for both of those songs?
Yeah, we just
just last weekend.
This weekend, actually, just shot videos for Confirmation Bias and Imperfect. They went really well. I mean, we're all getting up there in years, and so I think we were all laid up in bed for 3 days afterwards.
I didn't walk today. I was walking all week.
We were hauling gear up and down stairs like, we're not 20 anymore. But it was, all in all, it was a hugely positive experience, man.
I've never shot a video before in all my years of being in bands, like a professional. I've had lots of live stuff, but to have like a director being like, hey, try like,
shout out to Paul Birch.
Paul
Birch.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, is it Paul? Is it Paul doing the video?
Brought along Angel.
I figured.
Super easy to work with.
Shout out to Paul. Paul Birch did the video. Obviously part of Stereo Rex, which I'm also involved with. And
are they up already?
What's up?
Are they up already?
No. We just finished them.
We're in the editing phase.
And Paul did a great job. Angel came out, was a cinematographer.
They really killed it.
William was there moving shit around without being told what to do. Ryan's wife, Leanne, came out and shot some great pictures. I mean, it really was a team effort. I mean, it sounds lame, but I mean, everybody showed up with a positive attitude, and it was a long-ass day in a crusty old building, but we pulled it off.
I don't think we left till midnight.
Yeah, I think we put in a good 10, 11, 12 hours.
Yeah.
But
by the time I got home, I didn't even have the energy left to shower the filth from that dirty building we were in off. I was like, whatever, I'll change the sheets.
Yeah.
Covered in whatever's on the floor.
Yeah, dude. Could have been rat feces. I'm not sure. Whatever.
Yeah, something.
I think there was a little bit of apprehension when I told these guys, like, hey, I'm going to schedule us to like shoot this video, just around scheduling, and I kind of got the raised eyebrow, like, what do we do? Like, how do we do this? I said, don't, just trust the process. Just show up with a good attitude, and it's going to work out. And I've seen a little bit of the raw footage, and it looks great. I mean,
Paul and Angel were super easy to work with. Angel was totally like non-obtrusive. Like, he was never like in your way or trying to like influence your performance. Right. And then Paul's vibe was really just sort of just encouraging what you're already doing. Like, yes, do that, but more of that. It was yes. And it was cool to have some energy on set and to see that they were both so technically proficient at the same time. Like, they weren't just excited, they were also good at what they do. So I'm sure these videos are going to look fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, and Casey, I think you're the only one that had done a video before, right?
I mean, a long time ago. I've dabbled in videos, but it'd been so long.
About porn.
Yeah, none of that. But it'd been so. Yeah.
But Casey's the reason that all got set up.
I'm sure
it was Casey.
Yeah.
Well, I'm brokenhearted because you missed Bike Week. And
I know, with Stereo Rex,
that little pop-up interview that I did over at the Ink Magazine booth.
I know. Believe me, the SR guys gave me a lot of grief about missing that gig.
No.
And so I'm also in Stereo Rex. So, this band, Stereo Rex, steampunk. Busy.
Are you doing the trailer trash?
Oh, the TPO, yes. Yeah, Trailer Park Outlaws.
Trailer Park Outlaws.
I'm doing, I am.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm expecting to laugh my ass off all night long.
Yeah.
Don't let him just downplay steampunk. Like, he just said that like it was a project he's in. He's a really amazing engineer.
Well,
thank you.
Because of you and a couple of other people that have studios, I have something coming in the future for you guys.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's all. My deal with steampunk, I've been recording since 94. I mean, all the way back to the little Fostex X26 recorders. Yeah, I had to bounce the tracks, get more tracks. And I started doing, I think I recorded Eric's album when it was still in my house. And, I just kind of started doing it because I was in bands, and it was like, well, I think I can kind of do this. And we kind of figured it out, and I started doing it out of my house and was doing it for the bands I was in. And then I had other bands start coming to me like, hey, we heard that, can you do that for us? And I said, yeah, sure. And how much would you charge? And I kind of went, oh, I don't know, like, you'd pay me to do this? Like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then it kind of started taking off, and it was always word of mouth. And I just went into it with the attitude of like, I actually wanted to help the scene. Like, I wanted to be that guy that like, hey, I can get your music come to life and get it out and make it sound halfway decent. And
which is what any artist wants.
And it's been fantastic. And I've had people like Eric and Shane from Biting Heads and come in and they're like traumatized from these negative studio experiences, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, let's have fun, but let's also be professional and put out a better than average product. I mean, I'm not delusional. I don't think I'm Bob Rock or anything like that, but I think for what I'm working with in the I mean my facilities and my skills, I think that I'm putting out a pretty decent product. I never had anybody say anything.
You be the judge. You guys have listened to the 2 songs that we've already played.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're going to hear one more before the show's over, right?
At the end, yes.
Yeah.
And it's also a cool way for me to like get into a band for that project. Like, I'm the 5th member, silent fifth member, and I also come in without bias, right? Like most bands, I can painfully say this with my own band, is most bands are way too close to their own material to make logical decisions, stuff that makes judgment calls. So I'm usually the guy that comes in and says,
breaks the bad news.
Well, it's not so much bad news. It's like, hey, this is good, but it could be better. Like you need to shorten that solo. That melody line doesn't work. You should change that melody line. You need a harmony here. You need a little part here. And I would say probably 90% of the records I've recorded, I've performed on.
I've been our own person.
I've sang on them. I've sang on them. I've recorded guitar parts, piano parts. I've completely changed songs before. Like, hey, if you'll let me get in there and do some surgery, basically what I told Todd. Like, if you'll let me get in there and tweak the hell out of it, I can always undo it. And most of the time, most people go, "Oh yeah, yep." Keep going with that.
Well, Cassie Shea says that's a badass song. So
there you go, Casey. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
You're a sweetheart.
And you said something about porn earlier. I understand that.
Who said that? Eric's
No.
No, I was going to go somewhere with that. I shot a Battle of the Bands while I was on Guam. And the group came in from Indonesia that had all the video equipment.
Gotcha.
The porn group. We didn't shoot any porn. We shot the bands and had a blast, and it was probably. I'm like, oh man, I need somebody got any gloves.
Yeah, right. There's a smudge.
Baby wipes. Yeah.
But yeah, be careful what you joke about. No, just kidding. So where's you guys' favorite place to play?
So far, it's Creepsville.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, not necessarily as Morning Star. Todd, you're probably not going to have.
For me.
If you want
to, I'm with Taco.
Todd can go all the way back as far as you need to.
I can go way back. So when in the old days back in the 90s,
he's gonna say Mason Jar.
Yeah,
I know it.
We played Mason Jar. We played Mudbugs in Tucson, which is the Rock. We played. We played places in Vegas, Flagstaff. We played all over. So back in the old days.
From 93 to 97, I was hanging out in Pioneer Square.
Yeah. Pioneer Square up in Seattle. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I lived in Gig Harbor for 17 years. That's where I raised the kids. We've been back in Arizona for almost 2 years now, I think. So.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So here locally, I think for me and Taco over there, it's Marquee Theater is probably one of the best. There was a venue. It's not open anymore. Which is unfortunate, but it was called The Sets on Mill Avenue in Southern and Tempe, and it had multiple rooms and 2 different patios plus a live music room, and the live music room was still a good size. And so it's like you could go shoot pool next door, you go out on the patio, but you could go back to one of the coolest venues I think I ever had the pleasure of playing. Played a bunch of shows there with a bunch of bands, God Forbid, Shadows Fall, a few other projects like that.
I'd have to say Joe's Grotto. I miss Joe's.
The Grotto was good. The Grotto was good.
Joe's was home court for both of bands.
Yeah, I always enjoyed it there.
Marquee, it's always fun when you can get up on the big stage.
That's the giant stage.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I'll second I cut my teeth at the Grotto a lot.
Absolutely.
Man, I tore through the Grotto a lot with some other bands, and I sorely miss the Grotto. Props to Joe Grotto. I've had some limited experience with the 44, but it's been really positive with the experiences I've had.
It's fun playing.
I've played the Jar a couple times when it was still the Jar, and I just like that grittiness of the Jar. It seemed like a real rock place, I tore through Chasers back when Chasers was around.
Chasers was good.
The Rock in Tucson.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever play Studio West?
No.
Tiny spot. But one time we played a show at the Tempe Tavern, and that was just insane because there was so many humans packed in such a small space.
Yeah.
They were climbing over each other just to get to the bar, type thing. And like you only see that in music videos, you know.
Right.
Oh, and the old Club Red. I had some good times at the old Club Red too.
101.
Yeah, the one off the 101. Yeah,
The Red
good
Owl.
times. Yeah.
Yes.
I got a question for you then. If you were in Seattle,
Last show was
you were in
Oh,
Pioneer
no
Square,
way.
you hung out at the Central, right?
No.
No?
No, I was at the Phoenix and Phoenix Underground.
Okay. Because I think the Central's the oldest
Yeah.
bar there, right?
I think so.
And everyone played there, like Alice in
Yeah,
Chains,
everybody.
Soundgarden, everybody. Yeah.
But,
all of the Seattle grunge era.
well, and have you been to the Middle and Southern area, like the southwest corner? There's a complex there, and I think that could be turned into a type
Venue.
area, not just one.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
Because I honestly, just from a fan standpoint, that's the problem. Is it's so spread out and
Yeah,
so
what if
far.
you could make like a block?
Right.
that
Well,
was
that's what
just
Pioneer
venues.
Square. How many bars?
Yeah, that'd be great.
God,
There's a bunch.
you pay the cover in the first one that gets you in all of them.
Sure.
Oh,
And
Almost like a pub crawl.
right.
yeah,
Kind of. Yeah, that's genius.
yeah.
Those pubs.
The
some of
square
pubs
was
are from
just
the 1800s.
insane. Yeah. And I
Yeah, they
think
just pay bands
o-
out
over
of
where the-
bar
over-
instead of the door.
over where the Yucca Tap Room's at, you know,
Okay.
that
Oh, played
There's-
the Yucca
there's-
a couple of times.
2 buildings,
Yeah.
and you're looking at 3 sides, parking lot big enough you could do an outdoor event.
Right.
Yeah.
if
That,
needed.
especially that back parking area
Mhm.
between the 2 rows of buildings. Dude,
Yep.
you could parking lot party the hell out of that thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That would
outdoor
be.
vendors.
I wish I
all
could
kinds
win one of
things.
them stupid lotteries,
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
because
Give me
that
real
would. estate.
estate money.
Yeah.
Watch what I do with it.
No, because I think it needs. Because like in Pioneer Square, it wasn't just one genre; it was everybody,
Yeah.
Sure.
and you
yeah.
went to what you wanted to go to.
Right.
That's kind of the
You know,
point. Yeah.
I didn't know the area, so I went with the people that I was with, and that's where we went.
Sure.
So, but something like that, so that you got a little bit of everything, just to mesh it up and give, you know. I think the experience of something like that is far more vast than everything's so spread out. It's
Well, and I fear that like we've grown too niche in almost everything, like especially
yes.
metal and hard rock. Like there's so many subgenres of stuff that we've all become sort of like these weird elitists about it, and that's that's counterintuitive to what we want to do.
just right. Absolutely.
You know, like we're trying to build a community, so like
Right.
why not give everybody a little space to do their thing, but invite everyone to that party.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
find something you like.
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's
And
like-
it would bring us
it-
all together more.
It's hard for me to get some bands to come here because they don't like the drive.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I said, but you want me to drive to your show, which is
Right.
Right.
over there,
Right.
and then buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, so I'm just happy when bands say yes, because then I get to sit with you and you get to do this, and
Cool.
it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Seriously, we
Yeah,
appreciate you, man. Thank
I
you.
actually think Phoenix has a really good music scene. I mean, I think,
Exceptional.
yeah, I mean the bands that have, not only the bands I've been part of, but the bands that have come through my studio. I mean, sorry. I'm still Will Ferrell. I don't know what to do with my hands. Everybody's great, and everybody wants the same thing. Like everybody wants what's best for the scene. Like I've never come across anybody in my studio that had like a negative. Well, I can't say that. Very few have come through with negative attitudes, and most people just want what's best for the scene. They want other bands to succeed. You know, there's no like pissing contest.
There's not a lot of
It's
jealousy
like
out here.
yeah, it's like everybody just wants what's best for the scene, and I've always kind of said, no, you want your buddy's band to get noticed because then that brings the attention here, to Phoenix. I mean,
And if you're opening for
like
your buddy's band,
It's like
or if they're opening for
sharing
you,
my posts.
Yeah, right.
Of
like
what you do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
we're spreading the love around.
Exactly.
I think Phoenix's biggest problem, and I've had people echo this statement, is it's just such a big city. Like if somebody
Especially
says,
if you include the outlying suburban
yeah,
areas
like if
around
somebody
it.
says, "Oh, I'm playing in Mesa or whatever,"
I'm
or
not driving
AJ,
45
you know,
minutes.
and I'm over living in North Peoria, it's like that's a long way, dude. And you know, I mean, it sucks, but
ticket.
that's probably the biggest hurdle with Phoenix, that, in my opinion. But there's a ton of talent here, and there's a lot of good bands, a lot of good people. Like I said, the people I've come across have been positive. So
Right.
And I will say this about the music scene out here, having been involved in it for a minute. There's bands that I've heard out here that I'm flabbergasted they didn't get signed and blow up.
That's why I'm
Flabbergasted.
here. Because
You-
when I
like-
was doing my radio shows, I was playing what everybody else was. And I got bored.
Yeah.
Because it's what everybody else is playing.
Right.
Right.
And even though I had a way that I did it that was different, it still got boring. And I stumbled across bands in town. And I came across some bands from Phoenix and said, why isn't anybody playing any of
Dude,
this?
there
This is
were
awesome.
some bands we shared the stage with, you know, back in the day, that like I said, I was absolutely shocked and amazed that they weren't signed and already on the road on tour. Like Hypatia was a great one, Composer Meet Corpse was a great one, Sickmonic was amazing, Animus Complex was another great one. Like those bands were all like, holy cow, this should be on Roadrunner or Sumerian. Like, why isn't this signed and killing it already? And it felt like we were just like bleeding talent out here. Like everybody was so good in their own way.
Right.
And I still feel like we've got that out here. We have a wealth, like a deep, deep well of talent out here. I just would like to see a little more of that old school, like, hey, let's all come together just for the sake of metal. It shouldn't be about a subgenre. It should just be about, like, hey, let's just show up and rock out.
Yeah, just
Have a
show up
good
to a
time.
show.
Yeah.
Paul says Casey's not just a great musician engineer. As producer, he guides open-minded bands to make their songs even better. I've recorded at several studios, and they just push buttons. Casey is best producer in town.
There you go.
Nice.
And
That's
let's
huge.
see.
I concur.
that's huge. Thank you.
Cascadia Architectural Photography Services says, wishing y'all all the best. The 2 new songs are stellar. Hope you can get some tour dates on the books this summer. Come to Portland and Seattle.
Hey.
That's your yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
John in Gig Harbor. Hey,
Hey.
Todd.
Hey.
That's where I was living.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that.
Well, I know Gig Harbor, so.
I will say
That's
that,
awesome.
like, the internet, and I mean the internet's made things way smaller, right? So it's easier to network with bands that may not be in your backyard. So
And reach more.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm also based in reality. I mean, we all have day jobs and families,
Right.
and you know, it's got to make sense for us to do these things. But
Don't make dollars. It don't make sense.
yeah, but yeah, I'm up for just about anything, man.
Right.
Was that John Jon?
Yes.
Hey, John. I know who that is.
I'm sorry, J-O-H-N.
Oh, sorry.
You put J-O-H-N. Sorry. Wrong
That's all
John.
good.
Well, I was at Fort Lewis for 4 years.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
That
spent
worked.
some time up there with a lot of people that don't know how to drive in snow when it snows.
We got
Yeah.
family in Bremerton up there because they're all
Yeah.
they're all naval.
Navy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had some family in Bremerton that were doing the Navy thing.
I loved Bremerton. It was like Leave It to Beaverville, and then you were like a 20-minute ferry ride away from just the gutters of Seattle. Like, yes, this is perfect.
Let's see. I win a dumb lottery, and I'm going to put some bands together, and we're going to go tour the world. The world. Where are we going?
Germany,
man.
Russia,
I think Australia would be cool.
Australia would be cool.
You know what I mean?
I-
Japan.
Japan.
because they love metal.
Japan, my wife, she already got to go to Okinawa, so
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
One of my good friends lives in Japan, Scotty. I don't know if he's watching or not, but and he's got a band out there. And for a minute there, before I got with my current wife, and I was single, he was like, "Dude, move out here."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm telling you, you will be a god." You know what I mean? He's like, so I would love to play. You know, a lot of the Asian countries. You know, Japan would be cool. China would be cool. You know.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple local bands, and even bands that aren't local, but not, smaller bands, and they've always said the same thing. They're like, dude, the Midwest, those people just
they're
eat
starved for
up
entertainment, bro.
metal and good music. Like, the Midwest is rabid for good music.
There's a bunch of Latin countries that are the same way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brazil, Central America,
Yep.
Mexico. There's hot spots all through there where they're like they eat that shit.
I mean, one of my favorite things is the AC/DC video where I think they're playing in Argentina, and those people are losing their shit.
Dude,
like,
you ever seen that Audio Slave?
yeah,
In
tear down
Cuba?
their
yeah.
Dude, that was freaking crazy, man.
Like, I interviewed a band from Tucson that went to Mexico, and it was, I want to say they did 5 festivals in one day.
Oh, wow.
There was either 4 or 5.
I would totally do Mexico.
And that's honestly, as far as getting your name out there, that's the thing to do is festivals.
Well,
And if you like, shit, there's probably at least 2,000 people at each one of those.
Yeah,
Right.
max exposure.
So you're looking at 10,000 plus people that now know who you are.
right.
Yeah.
And
Leave an imprint.
well, and hopefully they like you and follow you, and
The one I wish we could play Midwest is the Milwaukee Metal Fest. It was last week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was it last
Oh,
week?
yeah.
Oh, man.
So,
Right.
tell them a long story. Back in the '90s, my old band was on a compilation for the Metal Fest, and
Okay.
we couldn't figure out how to get out there because we didn't know how to.
Right.
I mean, to put a tour together back then, you had to take a book and try to call the clubs ahead of time. There was no internet, right?
right.
Right.
It
So
makes
if I-
things
if I
so much
had a-
easier today.
Yeah, if I could next year, if we could play that, that would be like
All right,
bucket list for me.
That's our goal.
There you go. You heard
Well,
it first.
there is. I'm probably going to get the city wrong, but there is Metal in the Mountains. It's in West Virginia.
Well, that sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
I've
got family in Virginia.
Pipeline, West Virginia, I believe, somewhere around there. I graduated high school in
That
northern
sounds
West
good.
Virginia, so I'm not familiar with where this is at. But when I saw it, I was like,
Oh, that sounds great.
in fact,
Send us a link, please.
Co-op played there.
Okay.
Whoa, shit.
Trying to do math.
3 or 4 years ago now.
Nice.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, I mean, we're basically up for anything that makes sense. I mean, that sounds good to us. I mean, we were just talking about Red Rocks in Colorado. About
Right.
How dreamy that would be to play on.
you got Red Rocks. Now you got the Sphere.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
the
now you're
Sphere.
gonna- and now you're gonna have the second one.
That Spear's got to be a trip to play.
Was that you, Todd, that mentioned the show in Missouri? Or was it Missouri? Somewhere in that general vicinity.
Was it the one you were just talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where was it?
We should
In
get
the
The one in Milwaukee?
Trying to do that
Milwaukee.
Yeah, the
Metal
Milwaukee
Oh,
Metal
yeah,
Fest.
yeah,
show. Oh, is that the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Rocks, that'd be awesome.
Red Rocks.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
Yeah, Red Rock is.
I mean, we're still so young.
Yeah.
As a band, we're still very like everything's still exciting for us. Like, yeah, that sounds great. I mean,
We have to reel it in sometimes because we're like, take out
Well,
everything, and then we're like, okay.
But that's it, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is when it's a local band, they have day jobs. And,
Right.
oh yeah,
and families that they just can't up and leave,
all
and
the things.
yeah,
without some significant support,
yeah.
and I'm sure it's not easy. I wouldn't want to do it, and even with what I do, I couldn't do any more than this.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're coordinating with 5 guys at the same time who all have spouses and children and mortgages and jobs, and
The way
it's a lot.
the way I've always said it is being married is being or being in a band is like being married. but multiple times over to how many people are in the band, right? And
multiple
then
personalities.
all of your
who
band
you're married to, it might fit in.
So then all of your bandmates' extended families then become your extended in-laws, right?
Well, yes, absolutely.
And so like
Big families.
Even if we were all single and unmarried, it would still be a complex arrangement to try to get 5 people to agree on when and where we could and couldn't go.
Right.
But now that we're all dudes that have like lived, a good chunk of our lives already, like we've got all these things that tie us in place. So it's like not only, hey, where would you go if you want to go, but can you go?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But surprisingly enough, it seems like we're all way more excited to go than to not, like, and our family seems to support it. From what I can tell,
been a huge support.
Well, trust me, it wouldn't be a year long, because I understand that you're
4
leaving
months,
something
6
behind, and so and that's the important part of your life,
Right.
even though music is too.
Right.
How many marriages has music wrecked?
Exactly. Right.
On the bigger scale. Hell, how many is it wrecked on the lower scale?
Right.
Yeah.
probably uncountable numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even think
So-
we have reliable data.
I mean, fortunately, all our spouses and our families are like, we get it. We know who you are. We know that this makes you happy.
Been putting up with it 26 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always compare it to building a classic car in the garage, right? Like, your wife's not going to get it. Your buddies may not get it. You go in there, you're putting this classic car together, you're dumping tons of money and time into it, and nobody's get it, missing out on other things, and nobody's going to give a shit when you drive it down the road, except for you.
Yeah.
And then, but once you finally do get to drive it down the road, you and your 4 buddies, you're going to be like, yeah, this is the best.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like this. We need an office.
Yeah.
And I've now outgrown these 4 walls, as you can tell. So when I finally get everything done in the garage that I need to move it into the garage, we're going into the garage. And then I get to give the office back to my wife. But
There's going to be air conditioning in there, right?
yes.
Okay.
That's what we're
It
waiting
is
on.
Arizona, man.
Yes. Well, no, they didn't finish blowing the insulation when they did the attic over the garage. I don't know why you would do that. That's dumb. But then I've got to run 3 more lines, 2 dedicated 110s, one for a refrigerator, one for a freezer, and then run the 220 for the mini split, and then make sure there's enough room to put all of this out there and then some, because
room for an Ethernet.
there's a well, yeah, because I'm wireless but wired at the same time. I'll have to take one of the other Ethernet cords and take them out and put it over there, but it's just it's insane. And I don't know.
It's a really cool setup, though. This
Yeah.
is awesome.
It's cool.
I'm blown away by all this.
And I like all this, like, ground level, like, Yeti's just as important as steampunk as this band or this little band. I mean, I like that ground floor, like, these people care about the scene. I mean, I think those people are golden. So
I met Pete Cummings one night, and I'm guessing he knew who I was,
that's cool.
because he looked at me and he said, "We need 10 more of you."
Yeah.
And probably more than that now, with the way things are going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about independent music. It's all about local music, and anybody passing through town. It's just, someplace for them to chill, have a good time, and talk about themselves, and it's a blast. I can't wait to get with you on what I have
Oh, now I'm
in the
now I'm
oven.
curious, yeah.
But I do want to thank you guys. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
man.
you.
We will real quick talk about the last song, which is
Should be iterations.
Iterations. Yes.
So
I had to look at that really long because I know the word and I know what it means. I just hadn't seen it in so long. I was like, what the heck is this? That's how I felt when I seen the whole catalog.
He still misnames several of the songs all the time. If it starts with a C, it must be cognitive dissonance.
What's the other one? The other C word. Dissonance, cognitive dissonance.
Yep.
Confirmation bias.
No, Iterations is the most recent of the stuff that we've tracked. And like I feel like you can kind of hear it in the song. Like we're getting better at doing this together. Like it was good when it started. Like just the first a couple initial tracks or
now
whatever.
It's like making sweet love.
But yeah, like now, we feel like things are starting to really gel, and we're starting to sort of get where everybody fits in this whole party, and fulfill our individual piece of the puzzle correctly. And I'm really, really proud of this song, actually.
Well, I was the songs were emailed to me today, and I got them set up, and I ran through them. I played them. And yeah, I was doing stuff while I was listening, and I got to the third one and I stopped.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, They were all good. Don't get me wrong, but that one, what was it you said?
Fear Factory vibe on it.
No, the Making Love.
Yeah.
That's what threw me off. I was like, what? Where?
Yeah.
Okay, this is good. So. Very awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
What's coming up in the future? You got anything booked for shows yet? Any more shows?
We've got some stuff in the works. We've got some stuff in the works. We haven't announced anything yet, but we've got some stuff coming up. Pretty exciting. About,
as we mentioned already, we shot footage for 2 different music videos on the first 2 tracks that you played. Yeah. So hopefully within the next month or 2, we'll be dumping at least those 2 tracks on all streaming platforms. iTunes, Spotify, all that.
Awesome.
And then in between those releases, we'll drop the videos for those songs on YouTube probably, and any other streaming platforms that offer that medium.
Faceplace.
And then we've got, we're a pretty good catalog of stuff that we're still producing and planning to shoot stuff for there as well. But we've also got a couple of shows lined up. We just can't speak on them yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Super serial.
Super secret squirrel.
Secret squirrel shit. I know about secret squirrel shit. I was in the military.
We're trying to find that balance of like not oversaturating, but making sure that people don't forget about us.
Right.
Okay.
So we're trying to find that balance of playing out live.
You're going to get an IV drip.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I like IV
kind
drip.
of that little like, oh, that band was good. We want more. And then I think our tactic with releasing songs is going to be we're just going to keep hitting with singles.
Yeah.
Single.
Well, that was my next question.
Sorry. I ruined your list.
No, you're fine. No, it was whether an EP or an album, or if you're just going to do the singles.
We had this discussion.
Yeah. So I'm no old idiot, and I'm thinking we got to release like an album and maybe a song or whatever. And these guys are like, why are we going to do that? That's not... We don't have to do that.
Yeah, nobody does
Not
that.
today.
So,
yeah.
we can eventually put them together and put an album together, but
Probably
it doesn't
have a title.
Right.
Todd, do you want to?
Right.
Greatest unhits.
Yeah. But yeah, like Todd was saying, it makes more sense just to release singles and videos and
Right. Okay.
Just keep pushing them out.
Yeah.
No, it's done in all 3 ways, and I'm just curious and trying to let them know what to expect.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the first
So we got
release.
a couple shows coming up that we can't talk about.
We've already got a name. Are we agreed on that or no?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure that we discussed album titles, and unless anybody calls me out for being a liar right now, I think we agreed on Celestial Bodies as the album title.
Okay.
But we're just gonna drop singles and videos and any content we can until there's an album's worth of it out. And then if there's a market to, do cassettes, CDs, vinyl, You'd be surprised, dude. The punk rock crowd totally loves cassettes again. I don't know why, but whatever. Yeah, dude. Yeah, they do.
Some 8-tracks.
Well, no, I'm sure they started making them again after vinyl took off again.
Right, yeah.
So
Just putting the tape over the holes and recording a mixtape.
Right.
I actually just saw it was actually Hetfield talking to Joe Rogan, and they were talking about physical media, and he said, vinyl is actually the only thing that's really still
sells
a valid medium, physical
Right.
medium now.
To buy
So
an album and get the package and see the artwork and be able to read the lyrics and this is a package.
Right.
I feel like this digital era of music kind of just gave all that up. We just.
I will say, hold on, I will debate that. Because I've seen, like I said, the studio has let me see some really cool things. I actually have seen bands. Well, they'll release, I saw a band. They released their album. It was a USB bracelet, and all the album songs, all the FLACs, all the MP3s, the waves, all the artwork was on one USB bracelet. I was like, that's cool, man. People are finding new ways to deliver physical mediums.
I do miss the old days of CDs.
I do too.
I don't want to give away any secrets, but we've already discussed maybe doing a run of T-shirts where in place of the tag there'd be a QR code that basically does the same thing.
Yeah, it takes the shape away.
So if you ever show up to our merch booth and you see there's a T-shirt that costs $100, it's not because we're trying to bend you over a barrel. It's because that T-shirt does a whole lot more than cover your torso.
Right.
well, I will tell you, I bought Metallica's Hardwired when it came out on vinyl. I paid through the nose for that, and I'm glad I did. But when I took it out to set it up the way I set my vinyl up with the sleeves inside, a business card fell out, and it was a link to a free digital download. You want to know how pissed off I was?
Wait a
After all the other bullshit.
show me this now?
Right.
And that is a joke.
All good.
All right. That's totally awesome. And again, thank you guys for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a blast. And
we appreciate what you do for
come
this
back
team.
anytime. We get ready to do some more music, some more singles or some more videos, or I can set it up and do premiere videos or whatever you want to do.
That would be awesome.
I'm expecting, if Paul is telling me the truth, I'm expecting no later than July for this video to come out. I'm hoping earlier, probably in the June time frame, but June, July.
And then hopefully
Okay.
the second video to follow shortly after.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, I am going to be out after this weekend for, I don't know. We're guessing 6 to 8 weeks, but that's
Safe travels.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to be a good time. We get to spend some time with my old man that I haven't got to in
Good.
40 years, almost.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a good thing.
That's
So,
the silver lining if
family-
there ever was one.
Family's
Absolutely.
number
But thanks again to you guys. And
one. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, Morning Star out of Arizona, as always, right here on the Yeti Radio in the Backstage Lounge. Here they are closing it out with Iterations on the Yeti Radio.
Welcome to the Backstage Lounge on the YetiRadio.com. The Yeti Radio, powered by DavidLeeImaging.com. David Lee Imaging in the Titletown Music Archive and the Live 365 app.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti.
This radio person is the whole problem.
The Yeti.